that we can all use for continuing forward and attracting people, and the plethora of channels, and things change really, really fast in social media. In terms of, you know, what channels are most popular every year, what demographic is using what channels. So that's why I wanted to move forward and check that out. All right, so let me pull up my screen. All right. Come on, hang on. Okay, here we go. Can everybody see that? Are you seeing a social media a slideshow, or are you seeing me?
We're seeing you.
Oh, okay.
Nothing is shared right now.
Okay. Hang on. Okay.
Got it.
You see? Okay. So I just kind of went over the first slide of this. So let me move forward. So I just going to really touch, this is from the social media policy. These are the official approved platforms, and this is what groups and officers are using if you are actually officially representing the SCA. And each group is required to maintain an official Facebook page. Each group is encouraged to have an official Facebook group. The difference, if you don't know, I think at this point most people know, but a page is kind of static, and this is where the moderators can post information. A group is where you can have free dialogue, people can talk about what they want, and there are way more rules kind of governing what you can do and post in groups, and they have to follow the general policy. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I just wanted to make sure we cover what are the actual approved platforms. And since this policy came out, Google basically killed Google+, so it's defunct. It may still be an official platform for us, but Google doesn't even support it anymore. So that's why I've got it crossed out. So the next thing I want to talk about is some statistics about the mundane platforms that are actually out there. And this is a global slide, but I want to just kind of go over it. And this is good as of October. And since then, I will say probably the thing that has gained the most is TikTok. TikTok has grown tremendously, especially in the under 30 to 32 crowd. That is where the majority of people that spend a significant amount of time on social media under 35 are spending their time. But as you can see, this is based in millions of users. So 2,701 million users are on Facebook. YouTube is, you know, is both a search engine and a platform. TikTok, if you're not familiar, is a social media platform that is for creating really, really short videos. A lot of people will take a video and then they'll set it to music that may or may not make sense. Lots of pet videos on there. Snap is very much, it's pictures, and those pictures, you take them, you share them with your network, and then after, I think it's 20 seconds or 40 seconds, they disappear and they're gone forever. Pinterest is it's basically you build online digital bulletin boards and you post images and videos. It's also something where a lot of advertisers go. I would say probably a lot of the people that use it are crafters. I plan my wedding on Pinterest, a lot of it. I use it a lot, and I have a picture of one of my boards. I use it a lot for my SEA stuff, specific for me. I would say for garb, costuming ideas, I have a SEA DIY for things like putting camping things together. And then I also have a lot for illumination because that's kind of my main ANS focus. Twitter, I mentioned that I was the Twitter deputy from 2014 to 2018, and Twitter is kind of used to disseminate information, news, events, and then also to generate, you know, it's a good marketing platform for getting your brand and your what you do out there. There's also Reddit, there's podcasting, there's blogging. They're all considered social media platforms. I would say, you know, maybe there was a pretty significant Reddit conversation a few years ago that I followed. I've seen and heard a few podcasts and a few blogs, but I would say that the majority of what we will probably be covering today is Facebook, Instagram, YouTube to a bit, Pinterest, and Twitter. So those are what I'm going to be concentrating on a little bit, and just kind of talking a little bit about how you use them and ways you can expand your reach for recruiting. So just a quick overview of who owns what, because there are a few social media platforms that are owned by, two of the biggest companies in the world. Facebook owns Facebook. Messenger, which is how a lot of us communicate, which is actually a separate application that is built into Facebook, but it is a standalone app. They own Instagram. They own WhatsApp, which is, I think it's more used in developing countries in Europe than it is here in the US. It is basically, it's a communication tool. It can function as both a phone and as a texting platform. It does have video capabilities. So I've had conversations with friends of mine that live in Europe, and one friend that lives in Japan. So it's a way to connect digitally with people, but it's a one-to-one, and you can do small groups, but it's not a big group. Oculus VR, that's kind of more for gaming. It's a virtual reality. It's a gaming technology. I think for our purposes, we want to know that there's Google, owned by Alphabet, and then YouTube, which is where videos go. When I am trying to, kind of tell people about the SCA, a lot of time I have a list of videos that I will share out in on tier, like crown tournaments. Like we have a very, very large annual event that's called the Prix of the Black Lion, and it is an equestrian event. So I share things like that out. I share, videos that people put together. I've shared out the glow up and the dance videos that we did last year quite a bit. It's kind of how I tell people, this is kind of what we look like when we're active, as opposed to some of the beautiful, shots that we have, photos and short videos that we share more on the smaller channels. So I think the thing that's really super important to understand is your audience. You need to know who your audience is and what the channels for us to use are going to be the most effective. So I can tell you from being in technology and for building out recruiting strategies right now based on social media, video is what the younger generation, and this is pretty much under 35, that's what they want. And they want video. They want short videos of 3 to 5 minutes max, or even shorter. And then that's followed up by images. Text is most definitely way far down the list of what they want. They want short bites of visually stimulating information. And so they want to get involved by seeing something that captures their interest. And then they want to know that they can go look at it, have a link, go see more, learn more after they've already previewed it. Think about it as opening the dust jacket of a book or the back of a book. You're casually looking at something. You want to see if maybe it's interesting, or you want to read the information that is on Goodreads or on Amazon. You're trying to get a bite-sized information. Does this look like I'd be interested in it? And then I really want to kind of talk about the difference between informational sharing and marketing. So informational sharing is announcements. So these are things like, we're announcing an event, or congratulations to the newly crowned king and queen of Kingdom X, on tier, Artemisia, middle, everybody. Then there's the marketing aspect. And so I think the marketing is where we really, really want to talk about using social media. So the marketing is building your brand. And we have a really strong brand in that we have a message. We are an international nonprofit educational organization with a focus on researching and then recreating the customs and the practices of the anything pre-17th century, pre-1700. So I think it's really, really important that we talk about, what our marketing value proposition is. And when you're talking about recruiting, you want to get that in as many bite-sized pieces as you can. You don't want to have this really long paragraph that you're trying to sell people on. You want it to be short and you want it to be sweet. 2 or 3 sentences max when you're talking about marketing. And you need to build out a hashtag library. And I'll go over that in a minute. So you want to have concepts that you have shortened down to reusable concepts, and so we use hashtags for that. And I'll go over that because the society has their own hashtags, and then there are other relevant hashtags that we can use to tie into other existing interest populations. So, what your audience is thinking, and cool things to do, see, and try. And I think we've done, those of us that are Chatelaines, or those of us that have spent any amount of time kind of looking at where we can pull from audiences, we're talking at people that read books like fantasy, science fiction, maybe historical romance, maybe historical mysteries, movies and TV. I think that's safe to say anything that has either a historical theme or a fantasy theme. Comic books and tabletop gaming. Those are kind of all lumped together in what I call traditional media. Then there's the cosplay and the LARPing communities, and there's going to be overlap with that and the con community. So these are kind of the pockets of populations where we have a lot of general commonalities and the sorts of things we like to do, the sorts of pastimes that we have. So think about the people that you know and the people that you hang out with in the SCA outside of SCA events, and what are the things that you do? I'm going to say it's probably you're hanging out, you're having gaming nights, D&D, or maybe you're doing Settlers of Catan or some of the other tabletop games. You're maybe watching movies together, you're going to comic book stores, you're going to cons. So I'm just going to say that these are the communities where we want to concentrate our efforts. And then finally, and this is the thing that I've always said holds a society together, is community. We want to build a life, the time that we spend outside of our work, the people that we want to spend time with are the people we have things in common with. And that's going to be SCA, LARPCon, and cosplay communities. These are going to be the communities that have similar interests to us. And then we are able to offer them a little bit more because we have a historical aspect, we get to do research, we can get even nerdier and geekier than you might be able to for, like, say, cosplay and cons and LARPing. Any questions so far? Okay, so this is really important. This is a little bit old, but this is from a couple years ago, but it does give you a good overview of the demographics of what social platforms people are using by age group. If you'll notice, the 18 to 29 and the 30 to 49, and really 18 to 29 and 30 to 35 are really the demographics you want to hit for recruiting. You'll notice they're not on the same places where those of us that are over 40, over 50 are hanging out. If you look down, they're hanging out on Instagram, they're hanging out on Snapchat, some of them are on Facebook, and most of them are on YouTube. But as you see, the platform, the adoption of the platform goes down depending on what the platform is. So what this says to me is we want to be concentrating our efforts on those channels that are official SCA channels. If you're in an officer's position, we really, really want to be concentrating on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and maybe Twitter. And I would add Pinterest in there because that's really a good place for getting ideas, for costuming, for building things, for making things. And I think that that's also really good. But these are the most popular platforms based on, in the US, what those age brackets are doing. So now we're going to talk about content. So we need to kind of break down the types and the purposes of the content you're sharing, which platforms are more appropriate: videos, pictures, and then obviously text. We are lucky. We are in a really interesting hobby. We do something that a lot of people are intrigued with. I mean, especially when you get things like swords, shields, fighting, feasting, and horses involved, or even animals that you can take to events. We really have a good story to tell. So what we need to do is we just need to make sure that we're taking the stories and we're marrying them with the right media to attract the people and generate that interest. And once we get talking to them, once we get them invited to come talk to us and see things, then things get really, really interesting. So here are the hashtags that the SCA social, which is what the handle that the SCA social media team uses. So it's at SCA social or /SCA social. So we built out these hashtags by SCA, current middle ages, and then they added regram my SCA in the last year and a half, especially with COVID, to share your own images and then to get it picked up by other people that follow that hashtag. Then there's general crossover posting tags that we can use to kind of hit up other areas of interest for, especially in some of the more activity-based roles. So archery, armor, fencing, equestrian games, calligraphy, costuming, history, king, queen, prince, princess, knight. think about it. What is some of the news in the general world that's really big right now? It's the death of Prince Philip. There's so many articles out there about Queen Elizabeth, about Prince Charles, and you take in there the Duke and the Duchess of Sussex, and how they're breaking the monarchy. There's a lot of people that are searching on King and Queen and Prince and Princess right now, and it's a long shot, but they will pull things up about us as well. So if they're not in the UK, not in the Commonwealth countries, or they have an interest in that sort of thing, they might be interested in learning, oh wow, you could actually be a king and a queen if you wanted to. So when you're really talking about using social media specifically to recruit, you develop a social media posting calendar that is regular and stick to it. So what that means is you choose your social media channels. So I usually do at least twice a week when I'm trying to build out a campaign. It's called social media campaign. And then you build out the images, the subject matter, the theme, whatever it is that you're going to be building out. And you highlight those and you stick to that schedule. And then I usually say it takes about a quarter to see what kind of effects you're having, because things change, week over week, day over day, month over month. But usually in a quarter you can see, and you want to use the tools. Every social media channel has tools that you can use to track your metrics. They're analytics platforms. So you want to look at that and then kind of adjust your calendar based on the metrics. I also want to identify profiles outside of the SCA to follow, like, comment, and interact with. So for example, there are a couple of really great podcasts that I listen to, and all of the people that are in these podcasts are also on Twitter. Many of them are on other channels. So one of them is the 5-Minute Medievalist. She has the Medievalist blog. She's also writes heavily for medievalist.net. So I follow her on Twitter. I follow her on Instagram, and I comment when she makes a comment. I will say something. I say, so, talking about Chaucer, what would you think about this? Or, I was listening to your blog on healthcare in the Middle Ages, and I had a question about herbalism, or I wanted to know if you had any additional resources I could use to research for a paper that I'm presenting. So engage with different audiences outside of just the SCA, and that's what this is all about. It's getting our name out there, getting our brand out there beyond our regular channels. It's bringing people in and getting their interest and getting them really, really engaged with us, so that we at least have the chance to give them our whatever you consider your pitch. So the other thing that's super important is you should get your populace and officers on board. You should get deputies if you're shadowing. It's really super easy to get people to post information, to share things on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Pinterest, depending on whatever their channel is. It's really easy if you get your populace involved. Say, hey, tag me or tag us, or use these hashtags. Make sure you tag the kingdom, make sure you tag the barony or the shire when you post something about fight practice, or you're working on this really cool project. Include us so that we can actually look at it, comment on it, like it, and then reshare it with our networks, because it's going to have a ripple effect. What you put into it is what you get out of it. So the more people that are involved and involved with your calendar and the different channels you're using, the more visibility we're going to have in the greater world. Any questions? Anyone? Okay. So I pulled this because when I was the social media deputy for Twitter, this was something that happened, and it was brought to my attention. If you don't know who Lin-Manuel Miranda is, he is the writer and the producer of multiple Broadway plays. I'm trying to remember the one historical one.
Hamilton.
Thank you. He was in the UK, and this is a picture that he took. This is comments that he made. And where I have the arrow, the narrow arrow going, you can't see it. I'm not managing the account anymore, so I can't actually pull the conversation. But I know that he's from New York, and I actually messaged him, and I actually said, hey, there's a local chapter in New York City, and here's their calendar, and here's how you actually interact with them. And then I also look at how many people commented on this, look at how many people reshared this, and look at how many love this. So this is a celebrity who's mentioning us and who tells what we do. I mean, this is like free advertising. So this is the reason why I chose this particular slide. I went and I just pulled it out of the Twitter feed. This is exactly the sort of way you get viral and you get recognition. You get people that have a lot of people to mention you and to share information about you, and then you follow it up. You give them more information, and this is how you could get involved if this is something that actually really interests you as well. So this is one of my Pinterest boards. This is one of my medieval Pinterest boards. So I have 614 pins. Basically, I decided to do something about cats and dogs in medieval art. And it's mostly manuscripts and some tapestries. And if you can see at the top, there are a couple of carvings. One's in Notre Dame, so obviously French, probably 13th century, 14th century. One is Viking animals and arts. It's a stave church. So I just pull these out because I use them for my own calligraphy, or excuse me, my illumination when I'm working on artwork. But these are the sorts of things. So if you see, I'm very careful. I always make sure that if I put something on a Pinterest board, I find the original citation. I don't put anything on my board that I can't verify that it's actually a real thing, as opposed to someone on like DeviantArt that's building something. So I verify all that. I put that information in there. And then I have a hashtag actually on the description of the board. I have multiple hashtags. There's medieval, there's illumination, there's cats, there's dogs, there's manuscript. I mean, so I reuse hashtags because that's how people, when they put a search, so I hit search pins up here in this bar, I hit search your pins, and I'm going to hit dog, or I'm going to hit cat, or I'm going to hit medieval. That's basically the search tag functions as a meta tag. That's where the search bar finds the categorization inside of the application, and that's across every single platform. So the hashtag, which is the number sign followed by a word or a string of words with no spaces. You can use an underscore or a dash, but no space, no actual spaces. That's what's going to get people interested in finding things. They're going, I want to find out about archery. I saw this really cool program, so I'm going to go on Instagram and I'm going to look at archery, or equestrian, or horses, or take your pick, costuming. So this is where you're really going to be able to build out the recognition and the search functionality for other people. So I also mentioned Meetup. It is one of the official channels. It's actually not relevant right now. I have a whole white paper, and here's the link. I will also put it in the subject. I'll put it in the messages when we finish. And I basically, and this was about 9 years ago. I went to one of my branch business meetings, and I said, hey, I'm looking for more ideas for places where we can concentrate on using social media or finding more people. And so one of the members of our local barony suggested, what about meetup.com? And I thought, that's really good. I belong to, just professionally, I belong to probably 30 meetup groups, and I use it fairly regularly. So I decided to try it. So there is a subscription cost. I paid it out of my own pocket, volunteer. It wasn't expensive. I think it was at that point like $70 a year. So it wasn't super expensive. And I once I proved the value of it, I actually asked the barony to start covering it in the second year. So here is kind of what my results were that after that first year. So 14 months after creation, we passed the 100 member mark. Of those, about 6 to 10 people that were part of the group were current members that were either in our barony or in local baronies near to me. I'm in the greater Seattle area, and in the Puget Sound, we literally have 5 baronies right next to each other within 90-minute driving distance of either point along the coastline. So we're very, very heavy with baronies where I live. So I also included people from the nearby groups just because it made sense. People will travel from one barony to the other for archery practice, or for an event, for costuming days, events, that sort of thing. Several of the new members that found us are former SEA participants moving into our area, relocating from other kingdoms. And I was really surprised at how many people found us via that, as opposed to either our kingdom website or our baronial website, or that the chatelaine threw my way when I was a branch member. And I also, I saw the difference when I was a kingdom chatelaine, and who I was directing. I would say probably as a kingdom chatelaine in this area, I probably had 2 to 3 inquiries every week, from new people that were moving into the area that I was directing out to the appropriate barony, shire, group, whatever. Some data points: my average number of new members was 4 to 8 per month. The most requested activities were sewing and costuming, smithing, forging, art or illumination, and cooking. There was also a subset of people that were really interested in equestrian events, but I put them in touch with our equestrian guild, because that's a whole other level of participation. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, that's exciting. Sorry. And only about 35% of the new members that were connecting with me on Meetup were family, looking for family-friendly activities. And one success story, if you saw me right before we kind of did the breakout session, I have a friend of mine who is currently the On-Tier Kingdom web minister. She's giving a presentation in the other breakout room right now. I actually found her. She found us through meetup.com about 8 years ago, and she's now our kingdom web minister. So that's just kind of this is an example of today. This is something that I did as a branch chatelaine, and I now have that person that found us via this medium is now teaching a class in the other room. So I'm opening up for Q&A. My Instagram is Lady Landinn. My Facebook is Lady Landinn. This is my email address. And then this is what I look like on Facebook if you want to find me. I updated my cover and my photo to reflect where I am today, so you can find me if you want to connect up with me, or if you have questions you want to message me on Facebook. Anybody have questions? What can I answer?
I think Gita might have covered it in the comments, but there was a question about Discord.
Oh, sorry. Because I was presenting, I didn't see what was in the comments. So let me back out. Okay. So see, I was
just wondering, we're also offering a Discord class this weekend, and that wasn't one of the media platforms in your slide.
I have not used Discord. I have not used it. It is more my understanding that most of the people that have been using it and are familiar with it are in the gaming universe. I'm not a gamer. And I haven't seen used professionally when I'm recruiting even for software engineers. I haven't used it. So I'm using the platforms that I'm familiar with. And I also did gear this presentation a little bit more for the official social media channels that the society has okayed. So I'll be honest. I have heard that there's been a lot of positive interaction with people on Discord as well. I have heard that. I just don't know it. I'm not going to cover something I'm not familiar with.
I can't speak to it as I'm not real familiar with it myself either. I've been on it a few times, but I do know that speaking with our Kingdom social media officer, that is something that they are adding to the new policy that is yet to come out. So that will be something that is in there, and we hopefully will see more information about it soon. And
I have been seeing a lot of groups migrate to it for the free video.
One thing I would like to point out, we have, the estimates range anywhere from 35 to 50,000 paid members on an annual basis. And then when you talk about the unpaid membership, so these are people that participate but aren't members, I have seen numbers anywhere up to 100,000 people worldwide. And the reason I mention that is because the SCA, all of these platforms that we're using are third-party sites. They may be free, but we have no control over them. I personally did not agree with the decision to move everything as Facebook is our second official platform for everything, because it is a third-party application, and we have no say in policies. We have no say in changes to the interface. We have no say in what the moderators or the company deem things that are inappropriate. And I am a big believer that we are big enough and we have enough talented people. We should be able to develop our own platform for hosting things that is open for other people. But that being said, I wanted to gear this more for people who are going to be using social media platforms in more of an official capacity. Yeah, I know Twitter's really low on the list. Twitter is a lot of people have left Twitter in the last 4 years because of the former administration's use of it as a political platform, and the rise in hate speech and the rise in every ism or phobia or take your pick. So that's, I believe, one of the main reasons why Twitter has really gone by the wayside for a significant number of people. I think that we'll see that start to climb now that the former U.S. administration is off of it. I will say I haven't checked the messaging for it recently, but I think it's going to start going up again because it won't be so difficult to try and wade through everything.
I actually have a question, Landon. So as far as the communication that for newcomers, do you have like templates or certain things that you were using to make it easier to respond to people, or how did you work with like other shadows and other groups to make sure?
So that's the first thing is that's where the hashtags, that's really your hashtag library is going to be your most effective way of bringing people, getting them involved and getting them interested. And that's the first part of recruiting. You can't recruit people if they don't know who you are. So this is really, social media is best used in a setting for recruiting as a branding and marketing tool. So once you get them in, the single most important thing I think that people need to understand is you need to be very, very vigilant, and you need to respond to people's interest as quickly as you possibly can. Again, since I'm a recruiter, I recruit in the technology sector. I am pretty much on every single channel at least once or twice a day. It was easy for me as a chatelaine or as a social media deputy to respond because I was on those tools every single day. So that being said, if for whatever reason you're only able to jump onto Twitter, twice a week, or you only go onto Instagram, every time you want to post a photo of your dog, you just need to make sure that you have some kind of a notification. Turn your notifications on, whether it's on your phone. And if you're on Instagram, it has to be on your phone. Well, it's your phone. However, you're going to find a notification, whether it's your email, do it as quickly as you can and respond within 24 hours, 48 hours at the outside, or you're going to lose their interest. Because that's the thing about social media. It is an immediate interest. People's attention is fleeting. You really, really want to capture that attention, respond to them, and engage them as quickly as you possibly can. That's one of the reasons why I mentioned having deputies or people who, some people, they spend all of their social media time is on Facebook, or some people is on Instagram, some people is on Pinterest. If they're a crafter, they probably spend a lot more time on Pinterest. So getting those people involved, that's their channel of choice. They're on it all the time. It's like second nature to them. Those are all ways that you can really, really build out the brand by having people doing something that they like, volunteering to help the society without really needing to go outside of their immediate comfort zone, and then interacting. And then what you want to do is you want to prepare them, have the links for your kingdom, your local group, your guilds, whatever the activities that are the most prevalent in your area. Have that information handy. Just create either a spreadsheet or even a Word doc, and say, I'd love to. I can tell you a little bit about this. We actually have a special group of people that this is what they do. So we have our culinary guild. They meet regularly. I would love to introduce you to someone who can give you a lot more information. So, and if you have a website for those groups, if you have something on, if it's a guild or if it's a household or whatever it is, having a link to their web page is also helpful, or also connecting them. Oh, and here's their account, here's their Twitter account, or here's their Instagram account where they talk about the specific projects that they're working on. Does that answer your question?
Yes and no. It's just about mostly the messaging that you use and how you control. I guess control is probably a bad idea, a bad word, but like the follow up to any kind of message, like, hey, I'm interested. Do you have a standard, like, this is the letter?
So, yeah.
Especially on the Kingdom side, did you guys? Yep. I'm sure you had. Like,
yeah. So I dealt with this as a Kingdom shadowing for 5 years. So people would say, hey, I saw a demo at the Oregon, Renaissance Festival a few weeks ago, and one of my friends told me that you guys are, this is something that you do, and I find it really interesting. I'd like to learn more. So the first thing I do is, well, where do you live? Because I'm going to put them in touch with their local group, because it's kind of pointless for me living in Seattle to direct someone that lives 700 miles away in Southern Oregon. And even though I may know people there, I want to put them through to the actual people. So if they point me to, say hey, I saw this really cool video, and I was wanting to know more about it. Well, if it was a fighting video, I'm going to put them in touch with someone in, their local barony, or if it was someone that posted a video and they were specifically interested in the video, I'm going to find out who that person is, and then I'm going to facilitate an introduction. But it's really about bringing people together, getting them interested, and then getting them the information to drill down in what their interests are as quickly as possible, and in as few steps as possible.
And
is that what you're looking for? Yeah, it's follow up is key.
Kind of. You're just confirming stuff for me. That's mostly what I didn't know if you guys had like somebody that was really like someone that like will respond and follow up, make sure they show up, and like holding hands kind of thing too. So.
Well, that's part of what being a branch Kingdom or a branch social media officer can include. Right. It can be a deputy of some sort at the branch level or at the Kingdom level. It usually, if you, that's why I was mentioning, make deputies and get volunteers among the populace, because I would say anybody that's interested in social media, they live on specific social media channels, and they're going to know how to leverage it the best, and have them responsible, having one point of contact for specific things, whether it's, your fencing, the fencers in the group have their own Instagram account and they share things, making sure that one of them checks the hashtags and as responsible for kind of following up when they have comments from people outside of the local group that actually express interest. And a lot of it does default to your shadowing, and being a shadowing is, I would argue, one of the most important officer positions in the society for growth. But a lot of people in the shadowing role get dumped on. They don't get a lot of support. They keep getting told, well, you're the most important, if we don't have you, we don't grow. And yet people are very laissez-faire about helping out. So I'm trying to break the process down into manageable chunks, so that if it does fall to your shadowing or your social media officer, you can engage other people to help with the process and to help with the engagement. And because it really, really is, it takes a village to create a village and to build it out. So the more people you can involve, the better off the health of your program is going to be. Anybody else? Okay, let me get my let me get the real quick.
I did want to say so far, thank you so much for sharing all of this wonderful information. I've been, frantically taking notes, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And here's the URL for the meetup group white paper that I put together a couple years ago. And it goes in a lot more detail. I just pulled some of the results from it, but it does go to a lot more detail. And because I'm also a writer, I have a lot of different slide decks and papers and things that I'm willing to share, because I've been building this sort of thing out for years.
Yes, I want to echo Gita. It's a great resource our barony, we're kind of in the process of looking for a new social media officer. So to hand over this sort of information to them to get them kind of up to speed on how social media works within the SCA would be great.
And I'm happy to have a discussion with anyone. Again, I don't have an office right now. I'm just acting as building on the experience that I have. But because I'm a technical recruiter, because this is what I do for a living, that's how I have the information. And this is why I know what I'm talking about works. I'm happy to have this conversation with anyone. That's one of the reasons why I gave you my Facebook account, so that anybody that wants to reach out to me can. I also one of the moderators on the SCA LinkedIn group. And so people can also join the LinkedIn group if they want to, and they can reach me in a more professional capacity as a recruiter there under my Monday name, obviously, Kristen Fife.
There's an SCA LinkedIn group?
There is, and there's about 1,300 people in it. So one of the in Ontario and at Pennsic, one of my most popular classes that I teach is how to use the SCA on your mundane resume. So I've given that at Pennsic about 3 times now, and I give it in Ontario at least once a year, and I do have it as a PowerPoint. But that is one of the ways where I cross my two passions and help people out in the job search. A lot of people don't realize that the SCA is probably one of the best networks on the planet outside the military for helping you find jobs. So what else can I answer?
You mentioned that you gave us your email, and I think you thought you were sharing your screen at the time, but you weren't. Can you repost that maybe?
I just did.
Thank you.
And I'm on Facebook. And there's my Facebook ID. I'm pretty much Lady Landinn across most of my platforms. I'm Lady Landinn on Pinterest, but at the end is slightly different. It's if you search for Lady Landinn, it takes you there. So does anybody have any questions on recruiting in general outside of using social media? Yeah, please.
I'm wondering, when you're doing recruiting, do you have some method or script even for getting active members rather than just complacent members? Because it's nice to.
You're talking about getting your local population involved in your efforts? Like demos and stuff like that?
Right.
Yeah.
Taking on officer positions, volunteering for other things.
Yeah, I have a whole paper on that. I will just email me and I'll send it to you.
Great. So to piggyback on that though, when you're recruiting new members,
sure,
is there some way that you can, I know you said 3 to 5 minute video is king, but like flash out to people that really want to be active, not just a passing interest? Where they
I will tell you, and this is true in the SCA as much as it's true in corporate recruiting, the single most effective form of recruiting is the equivalent of an employee referral, and that's bring a friend. that's bring a friend to an event, bring a friend to a meeting, bring a friend to a fight practice, because that's I think that although all of us have some kind of an interest in history, that's kind of an underlying theme. The reality is, how many of us are here just for the history and we don't care about the people that we spend so much time with, right? So this is our friends and our family. And this is something we want the people that we care about to do things with us. Maybe not all the time, but we would love to be able to take a friend to an event for the weekend, or we might want to take someone to, your biggest kingdom demo every month. We want people that you care about to join you. So the employee referral, also known as the bring a friend to an event, is the single most effective way to get new members in and to get people that are super excited. I was mentioning that Alicia joined about eight or 9 years ago, and she joined off of Meetup, and she came in with 2 other people, and one of them is also still very active in our kingdom and our barony. She's she's in music. She does some illumination calligraphy. Her entire family comes with her. So, it's bring a friend. Hey, this is really cool. We should try this out. Here we are almost 10 years later, and we're really active.
When you set up Meetup, did you set it up in any particular fancy way,
Yeah.
or just went through the regular?
Yeah, I set it up as the local Seattle Medieval Club. And so don't do it as the SCA in the title, do it as Medieval Club, or, there's subgroups, like there's the medieval, there's the Seattle medieval fighting group. So set it up as more of a generic medieval history club. And then also, at least whoever the administrator is should also join, like, the local Renaissance fair, the local cosplay groups, the local LARPing community. We have had some great success with the local LARPing actually kind of crossing over and joining the SCA, because a lot of the LARPing groups, they tend to start when they're young. It's it's kind of their taking their gaming to the next level. And then what happens is, they kind of maybe not outgrow it, but they want something a little bit more serious than just running around in the park on the weekends with boffer swords. When they see the SCA, it's kind of like the college, is going from high school to college. And then some people do both, and some people end up growing into the SCA. So we've had a lot of really good luck with that. I think the challenge with that is just making sure that you're not looking down on your local LARP groups. That is the single biggest thing that I have seen is a challenge, is that, a lot of people in the SCA, they turn their nose up at the LARPing group, which is absolutely, I think, doing ourselves a disservice as well as them. As far as meetups, and then what I do is when I set up our meetup.com group, I set it up, and the calendar was all to start with activities that did not require everyone to be in garb. They were held in public places, because people that are joining a meetup group, they don't want to go to someone's house. They want to be in a public place where it's safe. So that would be like fight practices, business meetings, maybe if you have a social dance practice. These are going to be places where it's a public place, and you don't have to be in garb. You want to get them interested, talking to people, and then when it's time to kind of get them excited, then you start bringing them to actual events or to things where you're actually going to be wearing garb. And we have the San Fernando Valley Medieval Recreation Comment Arts Meetup. Exactly.
Yeah, that's for the Baron of Altavia and Caid.
Anyone else? We still have 10 minutes. If you want any of the resources I've mentioned, I have them all available for sharing out, because I believe wholeheartedly in doing it. In fact, the next class that I'm teaching is using Office 365 in general, and we have done a great job in Ontario. We piloted it, and I worked with Alicia because, again, I spent a significant time in my early career at Microsoft, so I'm very familiar with it. I've had a Hotmail account since Microsoft bought Hotmail in 1997, so I've been using it when it changed from just being an email address to a full-on collaboration platform. I've been using it for years, both personally and professionally. I currently work in a Microsoft shop, which means I work for a software company that is built by mostly former Microsoft employees. So we use Microsoft for everything. We use Teams. I've used Teams for giving presentations. I use it for sharing. This PowerPoint is the desktop, but I edited it in my online version. I have probably my favorite passion project when it comes to Microsoft Office is I have a spreadsheet that I've been putting together for the last several years of online fabric resources around the world. And I have yes, I do. And so I have that, and I have that link, and I post it fairly regularly in the different costuming groups when people are asking for, hey, where can I find linen? I'm like, well, there's so many more sources than just linenstore.com. And so, yes, I have been keeping that, and that's my favorite personal passion project that I share out with people. And I use my Office 365 on my personal account to share it out, because I can share that link with anybody. I can give people view permissions. I can give them edit permissions. And so it's really, really nice to be able to manage things like that.
I think I'm scheduled to be in that class with you.
If any, I assume people are interested. Let me, because I said this is really my most popular class, or my most popular class. Let me get it real quick. I have 2 resume presentations. Apparently we're fairly unique in Ontario. Our peers, when they're taking on a protege or an apprentice, specifically, they like us to have an SEA resume. And so I have a whole put together how to build an SEA resume, and I've got mine online on my blog. Let me find this. Here we go. All right, let me share this out. Okay.
Will
Alright.
your presentation be available for download with your notes?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that. Let me.
I was telling our members of our social media team in Glenavon about this class, and they're like, "Is there notes? Get notes."
And this presentation has actually been recorded as well. And so it will be on Kaid's YouTube channel.
Oh, do you know when that'll drop?
Not certain. Hopefully sometime early this next week.
Awesome.
I'll make sure to post in the event page or on the Kingdom of Kaid website, Facebook page, when those are available.
Right. Thank
And
you.
I will send all the relevant links that I've talked about for things that I have, presentations or whatnot. I will send those to the organizer so they'll have that and they can add that in. I put the presentation together late yesterday after work, so I don't have it shared out off my desktop just yet, but I will get that done.
And we've been putting those up as they've come in. Some of the earlier morning classes are already up on the event page.
Yeah.
So Landon,
That's what I got.
All right, let me know when you want me to end the recording for this class and then start the recording for the next class.
Yeah, I think we can probably end the recording for this class.